Tonight, the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party is up in arms about NIC's investment in Cabot Hotel project. The Ministry of Labour clears the air on carnival and time off, and a call is made for an all-out revocation of recently appointed members of the Public Service Commission and the Teaching Service Commission. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovely St. Amy Joseph.
It is Tuesday, the 9th of July, 2019. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, channel 117, also being simulcast on Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, on our website www.caribbeanhottv.com, and on our free Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Opposition leader Philip J. Pierre is calling on the National Insurance Corporation to stand up to Prime Minister Alan Chastanet and leaders in general who use scare tactics to get their own way. Pierre is accusing the Prime Minister of resorting to the said tactics to get money out of the NIC to hurriedly fund planned projects.
The Prime Minister thinks that he's feared. You understand? So, the directors of the NIC, some of them, with clear political motives, will be afraid to make that point, just like Slasper. There is no economic rationale or economic reasoning for the government to borrow $500 million to build an airport. There is no reasoning. And after borrowing another $60 million to rehabilitate it, it's built on fear. That's all. The Prime Minister wants to instill fear. He tries to instill fear in the opposition. You see what he tried to do to Ernest Hilaire. You see what he tried to Alva Baptiste. See what he tried to do to me, to instill fear. The Prime Minister understands no man is afraid of anybody. And St. Lucia does not belong to him. He's been elected and we respect that. But it does not belong to him. And we will not allow him to believe that the country belongs to him. He is not a massa. He's a Prime Minister, not a massa, in spite of what he thinks he is. And he must stop.
This is the sentiment of opposition leader Philip J. Pierre, who stated that Prime Minister Alan Chastanet is using scare tactics to gain access to funds for his upcoming projects. The funds in question are coming from the National Insurance Cooperative. However, Pierre went on to urge the organization to stand up and say no to the bullying as opposed to rolling over in fear.
I have warned the directors of these organizations not to allow politicians, particularly politicians who like to push their power around, to control them. It's not Alan Chastanet's money. It's not Philip J. Pierre's money either. It's not Emma Hippolyt's money. We are just custodians. The people put us there to be custodians. We can't behave as if we are their masters. It's not a master situation of I say anything and you must do it. And the directors must stand up to that. They must stand up to the fact. They must be able to tell the Prime Minister, and if I'm Prime Minister, when I'm doing something wrong, they must tell me no. That's what they put them in office for. You can't be afraid to tell the Prime Minister no. The Prime Minister needs to be told no.
Pierre accused the PM of seeking the funds to hurriedly execute plans in time for the next general election.
Quest for political advantage. Because as I warned them, time is running out. Because of that fear, all kinds of things, NIC funds, all kinds of things just for political advantage. The St. Lucia Labour Party will not accept that. We're going to go to every nook and corner in the country to tell St. Lucians this is unacceptable. And the Prime Minister must be made to pay in the ballot box.
Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you, Rochelle. Should pensioners be up in arms over the recent NIC investment of an undisclosed sum for the Cabot project? According to members of the opposition, pensioners should be in an uproar over the situation as they forewarn the risky investment may put pensioners' money in a state of jeopardy. Solange Alfred tells us more.
One would have expected that in St. Lucia, Cabot links would have meant direct foreign investment into the country by that company. However, we are now learning that the project will receive funding from the NIC. In other words, the pension funds of St. Lucians are being used for the project.
Leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, has affirmed that his attempts to warn Prime Minister Chasney against using NIC funds to drive such projects have fallen on deaf ears. At a press conference held on July 9th, opposition members rallied behind Pierre in a show of support against what they say is a misuse of pensioners' funds to finance the development of an 18-hole golf course at Point Hardy in Cap Estate. Former NIC Director Emma Hippolyte says pensioners ought not to sit idly by as their pension funds hang in the balance of what is being described by the opposition as a grandiose, politically driven project.
It is the spine that they do not have to stand up and to analyze a project and to tell whether it is the Prime Minister who sends a person to say this does not fit our investment policy. I tried very hard from yesterday to speak to Mr. Matre, and you could see I'm very emotional about it because I sat as a director of the National Insurance, and I remember very clearly wrestling with persons in government to say, this is good for the fund, this is not good for the fund. And when we are directors on any board, the responsibility we have is to protect the board and the institution that we sit. And the board members of the National Insurance are not protecting the fund of the National Insurance. And I'm calling on them today, and I'm calling on every pensioner to start agitating. And in fact, I am calling on the professionals at the National Insurance to ensure that the analysis of this project and others are well documented, because there will be a time when we will analyze this institution, and if they are found wanting, they will pay for it professionally.
Meanwhile, for their part, the National Insurance Corporation released a statement defending their action of the investment, stating that it falls in line with the mission of the NIC, which reads, quote, to ensure that every St. Lucian enjoys social and financial protection and to assist in the development of the nation, end quote. To which Pierre noted a lack of transparency on the organization's part in disclosing the nature of the investment. This, he said, is telling and has left more questions than answers.
Has the NIC indeed loaned 30 million US? Is the NIC investment by way of shares or bonds or debentures? Why aren't the people of St. Lucia being told how the pension funds are going to be used by Cabot, and why and how Cabot was given access to them? Where is the transparency that should have accompanied the announcement?
Pierre says the worrying trend undertaken by the ruling administration thus far includes an $11 million NIC-facilitated DSH project, payment of $100 million of government bonds in 2018, and now an alleged $30 million to the Cabot Group from Canada for the proposed golf course in St. Lucia. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you, Solange. The Ministry of Labour has seen it fit to highlight and advise members of the public that Carnival Monday and Tuesday are not public holidays and to be guided accordingly. Traditionally, Carnival Monday is a day off of work for the public to play mass, and on Tuesday, the public is usually granted a half day. The official statement by the Ministry of Labour was issued on Tuesday.
The Department of Labour wishes to advise that Carnival Monday and Tuesday are not public holidays. This means that time off given on those days is solely at the discretion of the employer, and the worker who works on those days is not entitled to double time or double pay. A message from the Department of Labour encouraging and maintaining a harmonious working environment.
Now, efforts to contact the Chamber of Commerce to determine why the release was issued to remind and highlight this matter proved unsuccessful. Of course, we will have more on this story. The leader of the opposition has called for an all-out revocation of recently appointed members of the Public Service Commission and the Teaching Service Commission, citing a lack of consultation on the part of the Prime Minister. Opposition leader Philip J. Pierre says a 21-day deadline has been outlined to the Governor-General to revoke the memberships, otherwise the matter will be moved to the High Court. Solange Alfred reports.
At a recent press conference held by opposition members, it was revealed by Parliamentary Representative for Vieux-Fort North, Moses Jean-Baptiste, that opposition leader Philip J. Pierre had written to Governor-General Sir Neville Emmanuel Snack, advising him to revoke recently appointed members of both the Public Service and Teaching Service Commission. Jean-Baptiste says this request was in direct response to a lack of consultation and disdain of the Constitution on the part of the Prime Minister, Alan Chastanet.
The leader of the opposition pointed out to the Governor-General that Section 85(1) of the Constitution of St. Lucia, Statutory Instrument 1978, number 1901, makes it mandatory for the Prime Minister to consult the leader of the opposition before tendering any advice to the Governor-General for the purposes of appointing members to the Public Service Commission. Likewise, Section 92(1) of the Constitution also makes it mandatory for the Prime Minister to consult the leader of the opposition prior to tendering advice to the Governor-General to appoint members to the Teaching Service Commission.
In his letter to the Governor-General, leader of the opposition explained the Prime Minister had informed him of intentions to recommend 3 persons to each commission. A second letter from Chastanet dated April 30th informed of intentions to appoint Mr. Cyrus Reynolds as chairman of the Public Service Commission effective May 1st. With May 1st being a holiday, Pierre said he replied by letter on May 3rd, noting the Prime Minister's intentions and confirming receipt of the letter. However, Pierre says, to his astonishment, the St. Lucian Gazette dated Monday, June 17, 2019, published the names of the proposed members of the 2 commissions and announced that the appointments were effective May 1, 2019. This, Pierre said, renders the appointment unlawful, void, and unconstitutional.
The simplest thing for the Prime Minister to have done, very simple. Pick up the phone and call and say, listen, Philip, I sent that letter for you late. I'm sorry. What do you think? That's all you have to do, you know. That's all you have to, I don't want the Prime Minister to call me. The Prime Minister doesn't think I'm his friend. I have no problem with that. But the Prime Minister, if the Prime Minister had any type of respect for the office, not for me. I'm a humble, ordinary person. I'm not from, you understand? Not for me. For the office, all he could have done, pick up the phone and tell listen to me, Philip, I sent that letter, my apologies. That letter came in too late. I was busy. That letter came in too late. What do you think of these appointments?
Opposition leader Philip J. Pierre warned if the appointments are not revoked within 21 days, then he would have no choice but to approach the High Court for declarations that the appointments to the Public Service and Teaching Service Commissions were gazetted on June 17, 2019. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, Minister Belrose addresses a major talking point concerning the not-so-subtle changes made to the dates of carnival music events. The public speak on the latest soca controversy, and are you ready to pay triple the amount of money for your daily takeout meal? That and more when we return.